48-hour art check, round 146.
Yes.
I need like an echoey sound effect, like I'm announcing something.
I like it. Like a Sunday.
Right. Oh man.
All right, man. Speaking of Sunday, so you did an interview with Taylor Cashton. So
Yeah.
I have yet to be able to see it, and my first window to do that will be tonight after the art check. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and it was
So
good. We went long. We went like an hour and 40 minutes and covered a lot of
nice.
stuff, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, sounds like a really good topic that might be might be helpful for me at this point. Cool. So it's been a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we jump in?
Yeah, let's do it. And I'll say hi to Tim and Squatchy in the chats.
How's it going, guys?
So Josh, what did you get done in the last little while?
All right. So what you see there is a thumbnail. So I finished the page, the crazy page with all the characters and stuff, and you can see that at quarterlystories.com if you go to the very last page. And then this is going to be the next page. It's hard to explain, kind of, because my roughs are always just for me. They're like maps. So what you'll see on the top right of that image is like a very tiny little thumbnail that's like the layout, like I worked out the layout. And then this is just like a detail of what the page is going to have. But um, it each part in it is kind of being described in the text. So it's talking about them like drawing maps on old dot matrix printer paper.
Oh, cool.
Um, and like it's going to be written on dot matrix printer paper that they're drawing the maps on and stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think I looked at it. I probably have about 5 pages left, so I doubt I'm going to hit that May projection. But I'm thinking June or July now, which still isn't too bad. Like for what I was expecting, considering this has taken years to get here. So it's kind of weird to be at like hey, there's like maybe 5 pages left.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fun place to be.
Yeah, you're looking down the end of that tunnel, man.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. So, what all did you get done?
Let's see. I finished off the. Oh, that's weird. It's so big and it has an alpha channel. I finished off this logo, which is gigantic. I did 3 episodes of the podcast, interviewed Taylor Cashton, and finished up the um, Kickstarter video with some help from Marshall on the sound and stuff. So, got all that done. I kind of felt like I didn't get much done. And then I looked at it and was like, oh, okay, that's okay. Because I wanted to color some pages and I wanted to uh, like get a story for my animation, and I have just beaten my head against a wall on that animation. I cannot figure out what I want to do with it or even where to start. I'm like completely drawing a blank. So I should have just jumped in and done some mindless coloring, but I decided that I didn't like the last 2 pages that I colored, and so I want to do like an overall look at the entire book and choose color palettes based on um, like page to page rather than like take an individual scene and do it. Instead of doing that, I want to take like whole arcs and have a color palette per like the mood that carries from page to page, and have that
Nice.
change as things get more dangerous and stuff. And so that's going to take some like global planning. Anyway, all of that is to say I didn't get everything done that I was planning on getting done. So
That is still quite a bit more than I got done. I got a lot of goofing off done. We'll get into challenges, I guess.
yeah. So challenges. Tell us about your goofing off.
So for my birthday, one of my friends kind of kidnapped me, which was kind of fun. And so we just went and had a drink or two, and then had a lot of family time and stuff like that. And then I, on a whim, decided to get an NES emulator and spent the majority of the weekend playing video games that are from my favorite era of gaming that I kind of grew up with. And so it's been pretty fun. So I've currently gotten really hooked on Final Fantasy 1, pixels and all. And I'm doing it properly. I got my black mage, I got my white mage. I got I got two fighters because you don't want the thief. The thief is completely useless in that game. Um, but yeah, so yeah.
Now the real question is: are you going through it authentically, or are you going through it with hits from the internet?
I'm trying to do it as authentically as possible, and what I'm surprised by is how much I kind of remember. Like, I never, I always learned stuff from like my neighbor who was like the richer kid of the two of us,
He
and so
he could
he
he
like
could afford like Nintendo Power.
yeah, yeah. So he had Nintendo Power, and he's the kid who got the Power Glove. And then I was like, never mind, I don't want the Power Glove, even though I thought the Power Glove would be cool because I saw what the reality of it was, and was like, oh, you got ripped off. I can beat you with this remote. And he's like, well, my Power Glove, I'm gonna get you. Um, yeah. So yeah, it's been fun to play because it's like I did remember some things. Like there's this little level up forest spot, like the third castle that I'm
Yep.
still kind of playing because it's like you just kind of cheat that area and you play these like really high level people and you level up really quickly. And then like hours later, I'm like, this is why I've never bought a gaming system. However, it's been super fun and it's been needed because I don't know, you know, if you guys watch like the art check or whatever, not the art check, the art casters that we had Kevin and Cory on, I feel like I was kind of burning the candle at both ends and needed a little like respite. And so I'm feeling pumped and ready to go. The only other challenge I'd mention is like I finally started lifting again.
Hmm.
Um, as part of my exercise routine. And so today I am in pain, like brutal pain. And it's a good reminder to not take a break with that sort of thing. Because if you do, you pay pretty hard.
Yeah.
So that's been my whole day is just like walking around like, oh, that aches. Did that even exist? You know?
Yeah, I've
So
been doing pull-ups pretty consistently every day. I try to hit about 18 a day. And yeah, if I miss a day or if I only do a couple, then then the next day it's like, "Oh, okay. You're old.
yeah,
You can't miss a day."
yeah. No, it's a fair point. It's a fair
Yeah.
point. But it's a good feeling again too, because I feel like doing those. We've talked about this before, but that's one of I think both of our goals is to try to kind of be in shape because it's like if you don't have a healthy body, you can't expect your mind to be healthy for that long either. So it's like it's kind of important to like try to maintain that a little bit.
I think
Um,
you have a goal and I have like a slight passing inclination. Because if I called it a goal, I would be very remiss because I am not. I've been doing pull ups consistently just because Scarlett and I, my daughter, she's gotten to the point where she can do a pull up and a chin up, and we're doing challenges with each other. Um,
yeah,
but beyond that, I'm not eating well. I'm not doing anything else. I think I've injured my knee taking my kids on a walk today. I don't know. Like, we didn't run, we didn't go uphill or downhill. I was pushing a stroller. My knee hurts. My knee hurts like it's never hurt before in my life. I don't know what's going on.
I
And
I I will at least say that since starting the whole kind of like my main routine, which is just the rowing machine. It's like if I go like a week without it, I'm like suddenly getting like backaches all the time. It's like the week feels really good for a little bit, and then I'm like, oh, that's why I do this because otherwise, like I sit at a desk all day. So
right.
if I'm not getting like cardio in, like my brain and body just ache.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't found anything that helps with that. But
Yeah,
anyway, so challenges for me. Let's see. I'll do this. I don't want to talk about some of this on the air, but
yeah,
like, there's some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So there's stuff that's, I don't know, like my anxiety level the last couple of days have just been super high. And then I don't know, working in the yard, I played a ton of video games. I
Nice.
I found a I found a I found a sale where you could buy a bunch of Lego games, which aren't that
Ooh.
fun, but my daughter likes them. So we've been playing. She's obsessed with Harry Potter. So we've been playing Lego Harry Potter. And then the problem is when I play video games with her, and then I read her a story, and she goes to bed, everything's already set up. So then I'm like, oh, just a couple games of Rocket League,
Yep.
and then a couple games of Rocket League turn into, oh, the art check is starting in 20 minutes. I should stop doing this.
I love
So
it. I literally was going to turn on my gaming system, and then I was like, "Can I really just do this for 20 minutes now?"
right,
Um, yeah, that's hilarious. So we have similar challenges. All
yeah,
right. Well, should we dip into plans? Because I
yeah,
think we are for our topic, kind of do a little touch on just what we did over the vacation and kind of maybe a rambly one.
yeah, yeah. So what are your plans?
So my plan is to try to do the like the lettering and layout, the rough layout and lettering for the next page of quarterly stories, the one I roughed out. And then I have a bunch of freelance that just came. So I would like to at least have a good start on some of that too, because that wouldn't hurt like financially to have a little extra. So yeah, so there's that.
Cool.
And just more branding stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
I haven't thought about what I'm going to do, but I think what I want to do is I want to have, I can't remember what it's called. In animation, they do something, and I can't remember what it's called. I wrote it down. But anyway, I want to do that for my children's book, which is a big global look at the kind of rough colors of every page, and I want to tweak it like looking at it all 40 pages at the same time.
Nice.
Um,
Like a board kind of thing.
what was that?
Like a mood board kind of thing.
Yeah, sort of. But it's like there's a
Like a
name for
color.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically making sure that everything flows from page to page. I think I've been attacking the pages randomly, so I think that's the main thing I want to get done, and I need to do something to kind of refill my creativity because the well has run dry. Like
Yeah.
I usually can maintain like a kind of a decent level of ideas for things, and I mean, it's been like 4 days of just beating my head against a wall. I've got nothing. And
Hmm.
so I think I've got to stop like pushing on it and start like doing the things I know I need to do to kind of refill that energy so that I can pull from it again. I think I've just drawn from it too much and not really added anything. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll do some
Yeah.
of that.
I don't think that's a bad call. I mean, another tip is just to like go out drawing, like just
Yeah.
like go to a mall or something and like draw,
Yeah.
because like just drawing will like usually spark some ideas.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I
but that's a tough thing if you're trying for ideas. So I would just not try.
Yeah, and
A
I
doodle.
think I think one of the challenges that I forgot to mention um, is that I'm going to be a single parent for the next 6 weeks
Ooh,
because my wife got the lead in a play, which is awesome. But the play is in Pocatello, which is about an hour and 20 minutes drive from here, and so we're like kind of two ships passing in the night. So I rush home as she's rushing out the door, and then I've got the kids
that is
by
a
myself, and so that's hard. Um,
yeah, that's a massive challenge.
yeah, so I mean, like right now, I have like the monitor on silent just in case Maddox wakes up, and so there's like a bunch of I don't know. That's probably Wayne in the back. I don't know how single parents do it, guys or girls. It's hard, man.
No, it literally takes like a village to raise a kid. So
Yeah,
it's that. That's insane.
Because
And I just
I'm not one of those guys that like comes home and ignores everybody. Like I help, but it's like a team effort. And
yeah. Oh yeah.
so, you know, it's like, you know, and I'm not one of those dads who's like, I'm babysitting. Like I understand that it's parenting, but,
Yeah.
but anyway, it's just like, oh man, I forgot what this is like. Cause she does a play usually once a year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
so, so
And it's
anyway,
cool that you do that. And you've talked about that before. You guys kind of support each other in those endeavors, and I think that's good for like sustaining, but
yeah,
it's still that that's never easy on any parent, like to have that that shift. So while it's cool because it's like you get to spend time with your kids, holy crap, yeah,
yeah,
that's be a challenge.
yeah,
Well, maybe that'll give you some ideas. I mean, maybe you'll get some material from that.
yeah, yeah,
Ah, so should we jump into the kind of meandery topic?
sure. Yeah, let's do it. I don't even know if this one's going to be a podcast, but maybe it'll go somewhere interesting. Uh, so today's topic is what Josh and I did over vacation. So,
Yeah.
and it's not like we had a giant vacation. We only had Monday off, but
Yeah.
I will say I saw somebody on Twitter say this, and I wholeheartedly agree. Like I can't remember who it was, but he said, I think, I think the world has gotten it wrong. I feel completely rejuvenated from a 3 day weekend. Like
Yeah.
I think this like 5-2 thing has like been messing everybody up. And like a
Yep.
4-3, man, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So
I
it
agree.
felt like weeks off, but it was just an extra day.
No, it was excellent to just have because like for me, there's like maybe two of those a year and then maybe a little bit of vacation, but it's like just having that extra day and the kind of weight off on Sunday where it's like, oh, I don't have to like have everything wrapped up by tomorrow. And like even a little freedom, like where I'm like Sunday night, I could be like, maybe I will go to that, you know, forbidden forest, the level up forest, level up all my Final Fantasy little figures.
Yeah. Holly in the chat said they're called color keys.
There we go.
That's exactly what they're called. And like the term was just on the tip of my tongue. Victor says that I need to go fishing, which I find to be one of the single most boring things you can do on this planet, which is probably the exact thing that I need to do because boredom spawns creativity. So that's not a
Yeah,
bad
I,
idea.
I think the best two things are like one, just kind of start something that you don't want to do. Because often when you do something you don't want to do, what you want to do becomes really clear as day.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably a better piece of advice because I think often like you and I will be in positions where the thing we want to do is the thing we don't want to do.
Yeah. I edged my entire lawn by hand.
Oh
Um,
wow,
and now I'm thinking that's probably why my knee hurts. But yeah,
that is an explanation.
right. And so that was something I didn't want to do. I still got nothing. So I
Yeah,
don't know. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Let's talk video games for a minute. So
yeah.
a couple years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna fire up the old emulator. And is your system just Nintendo or is it Super Nintendo?
No. It's just NES.
Oh
Because
man.
I literally, well, I shouldn't say literally. I checked out of video games after the NES out of at the time just reasons of like money because like my family wasn't super well off or anything and uh, and then I somehow passed that whole stage except at friends' houses. And when I finally was able to game again, it's when I had roommates in college who'd have like PS2s and like PlayStation ones, or it was like at friends' houses playing like Madden or
Right.
something. So I missed this whole brilliant phase of gaming, and I still to this day have just like I have a preference for those two buttons. Like I really like just the simplicity of the NES.
Okay, let me let
Um,
me let me tell you. You need to play Super Metroid.
ooh, okay, that does sound.
Metroid is the best game that has been made. I don't know if I say ever because I like a couple games, but Super Metroid is legit. That's a good game.
Oh,
Yeah,
that sounds.
it's like the end of the side-scrolling era where,
Mhm.
but it was just so good. Anyway, I really liked Super Metroid. That was awesome. That was the one where there's two games that this one summer I was like I'm gonna get it back into retro gaming, and one was Super Metroid, and I did the cheap route because I'm like I don't know, at the time I was early 30s or something, and I was like I don't have time to spend 400 hours trying to figure this out, and so I just went through like the little tutorials online where it's like go to this room first
Yeah,
and then go to this room, and so I just followed that. It's still super fun that way, but like I got every item and I beat every boss. I exposed the entire map, and then I was like, all right, instead of doing that, I am now going to play Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which is also one of the best games ever made. Um, and I played that without a tutorial, and I never finished it. But I put in a ton of time. That's a game that like I don't know that that's been topped. And I know a lot of the people in college now they're talking about like Ocarina of Time and all the newer Zelda games, and like
yeah.
A Link to the Past is that is a gem. That's a rarity in gaming. It was
You
so
know
good.
what's amazing about both of those games, like Metroid and Zelda, is both of those games with being the kid who didn't have Nintendo Power were like impossible. Like I remember Metroid 1, like the first Metroid, um just spending like half a year playing that game
Right.
and getting nowhere because it's like this giant puzzle
Yeah.
and you really need someone who's been through it for like a year and a half or gotten like Nintendo Power to be like, no, here's where you go this route. And you're like, oh, um, it's funny how a lot of that information, like kind of pre-internet era, was just kind of passed along
Right.
from like
It's word of
gaming
mouth.
friend, gaming friend. What I was pleased with, like my favorite game that I totally played the hell out of, um, was Mario 3. I still think that is easily one of the best games ever made. And I would say because of the simplicity of it. But what was
Is
cool,
Mario 3 I track the different Marios by how he flies. Does he
yeah,
fly with a raccoon tail in Mario 3?
yes,
Okay.
Raccoon Tail. There is a I think a like raccoon suit
Yeah.
that you can get on one level,
The
and then I think
Takuni
there's
or
like
Takuni.
frog suit kind of weird like little levels. Like I think level 4 you can get in this little. This was like the hot thing back in the day, but you would like want to warp whistle, but not past the point of like these little bouncy like shoes
Yes,
because
the
you
boots.
yeah you can get in the boot and it's really not that fulfilling once you get it because you get in the boot and then maybe get hit by like a fiery like a flower and then you're screwed. But still, I do remember like everybody being like, "Don't work past level," and then there's like the giant world and stuff. But
But in
yeah,
the boot you can run across all those black little bitey
yeah,
clamshells and they don't hurt you.
fighting those guys, yeah. But what was cool was like just playing it. Like that's the first thing I played when I fired up the emulator, and I was like in heaven for like 2 hours because it was like instantly knew exactly where everything was. I was like, okay, here's where I crouch. And then I go behind the screen, and my wife was like, how the hell do you know that? I'm like, just that's everyone knows. Like everyone knew that. Like I don't even
Here's what I don't understand about this situation because I think this
yeah,
is true of almost anybody our age. That it could be 20 years since you played those games. You pick it up and like the muscle memory comes back. You start to
yeah,
remember secrets and stuff. I can't remember people that I've known for years and that I
yeah,
see daily now what their
for
name
sure.
is. But like I can remember where the stupid warp whistle is hidden in some game I haven't touched in 30 years.
Oh yeah, and it's like half the time I'm like, "What's up here again?" Like I know,
I know there's
I
something.
my instinct, like repetitive action in the rotting of my brain, just an 80s kid. Like that's how I know. Yeah,
And
yeah,
this is before gamers or game makers like really understood like the psychology of gaming because they did their homework and they do things that are like super addictive now, right?
yeah,
Like intentionally to try to get you to play for hours and hours and hours. I wonder if there's something about growing up with a Nintendo because the grind on some of those games, like just where I'm going to do this one thing and fail at it 400 times this
yeah,
month before I nail it, and then realize that there's no save in this game. Like when I turn this computer off, I have to turn it back on and start at World 101.
yeah.
Like, and then I have
Oh
to
yeah,
do it. So you can't just get by. I remember like the Legend of Zelda, the gold cartridge, and they put a battery in it, and they're like, you can save. And I'm like, you can save without a game genie? That's amazing. There's got to be something about persistence in adulthood for those of us that are like 35 to 45, and
yeah,
just the sheer willpower that it takes to play games where they did not think things through.
yeah, for sure. I mean, like if you think just back to like what kind of persistence I required and how often you would fail. Like one thing I still haven't mastered on Mario 3 that my neighbor had down like pat, and I still can't do it, was like it's like I'm blanking out on the level. If I got there, I'd know exactly the spot. But it's like right before the stairs, and I think it's in like the third level or the fourth of Mario 3 where there's this one spot right before the stairs that you go up to get the flag, and if you jump on a turtle shell just over and over again,
Yep.
you can get limitless lives. But it literally requires like perfected just like over and over again. And my friend would do that for like 3 hours and just get like, 400 lives and be like, all right, I'm good.
And now I can't turn the console off because now I'm ready to play.
Exactly. But like the weird thing is, you think about that and like kind of the persistence required for that. Yeah, that is a really good point. Maybe that was conditioning us for some grit.
I think I can get through pencils because I've played those games before. I want to know in the chat. We've got a lot of people in the chat. We've got Holly and Tim and Victor
Yes.
and Squatchy and a few others. I just want to know what 8-bit, 16-bit, or 64-bit games are you like all about? And while they're answering that, have you played Bomberman?
Yes.
Okay, because Bomberman is also I think I'm realizing I think every game is the best game that's ever been made, but Bomberman, that was like the first like multiplayer, and I think
Yeah.
one of the versions pretty early on. I can't remember. I think this was Super Nintendo, not Nintendo, but one of the versions you could play 4 players, and that
Oh
was like
man.
you had to get the special adapter, and then
Yes.
you would like carefully wrap the cord around your controller and bike it
Uh-huh.
over to your cousin's house or whatever because no one owned more than 2 controllers.
Yeah.
Unless you got that big joystick pad like after you bought the 2 controllers.
Yeah. My neighbor had that. He also had, that came with like the track racing game.
Right.
That once again, he'd be like, haha, I've got the pad. And he'd be like running on this pad. And I'd just be like, you can't beat this. You can't beat this. Beating you in the race. And I just have a little controller. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny how much you can see like just the dev of like what the Wii became, where in all of the early like Nintendo, the things Nintendo was trying to do pre Wii. It's funny
Yeah.
to see all these iterations before they had that down.
And
Uh,
the thing with the Nintendo that drives me nuts is everybody's like, bigger, better, faster, and Nintendo
yeah,
does the weirdest crap. And it's like, literally, if Nintendo just wanted to never ever have to, sell another game to make any money, all they would have to do is release their catalog on Steam.
Oh yeah.
Charge like $5 a game.
Yeah.
You'd just be minting money. There'd be no, and instead they're like, let's try the Virtual Boy. Let's try
Yeah.
the Game Boy Color. Let's try the, blah 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 blah. And recently, as everyone is like racing towards like, we've got a camera that can recognize your face and track your body, and they're like,
Yeah.
we've got cardboard. We're going to sell
Yeah.
you $70 worth of printed die cut cardboard that you have to assemble yourself. But you can fly a submarine around, and then shoot a suction cup at stuff. And I was like, isn't this just like Pilot Wing 64 from, like 1998 or something? Like
Yeah.
there's nothing about that. Anyway, and somehow my daughter was at somebody's house the other day. She's like, Dad, have you seen the Switch? They've got this thing. It's made out of cardboard. I'm like, yeah, I've looked it up. It's $60 or $70 or something. Some ridiculous price. It's crazy what they're charging for that.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
literally cardboard.
in the chats, that is insane. In the chats, Holly is saying, I don't play games whatsoever. I'm too obsessive to like games. That is me as well, which is why I'm really gonna have to be careful, even with like a retro NES. The reason I felt comfortable buying that is I'm so familiar with it that I'm like, okay, like I can actually stop. I know how this game ends, you know. Um, but yeah. And then Squatchy was saying Contra is his jam, which power to you, sir.
I never got into Contra or Aliens, though I remember biking to the Blockbuster and renting
Yeah.
them. And I was like, I feel like I need more time than the weekend to get into this game. But it seemed cool and everybody really liked it. I just never got into that one.
Tim was saying Atari was LOL, which is completely cool. Atari was awesome. Frogger, classic game.
Yeah.
Um, and then Holly was saying the hip game when she was a kid was Banjo Koozie, which
Kazooie.
or Kazooie. I don't even know what that is. Is that? Do you know, Corey?
I have played it for several minutes, but I think we're quite a bit older than Holly, so I think that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a little past my, because there was kind of like Spyro and Banjo Kazooie and Diddy Kong Racing kind of, I think, all came out at a similar time, if I recall. Diddy Kong might have
yeah.
been later, but I had Diddy Kong at the time, and that was when I was in college, and my roommate was obsessed with Enya, which I don't understand in any way, shape, or form, because it
North.
literally, well, it just sounds like mumbling ghosts to elevator music. I don't know. It's like if you slowed elevator music down and then had ghosts kind of mumble stuff,
Yeah.
that's what Enya sounds like. Anyway,
If took classic Irish uh, music, exploited it, put it through like a boardroom meeting. You have any?
you want to hear my impression of every Enya song ever produced? That's that's the only thing. I've listened to almost all of their albums because of my idiot roommate. It all sounds exactly like that.
Yeah.
There's no
Well, that's
variation at all. I don't know how they claim to have different songs. Anyway,
yep.
that
Yeah.
was always on when I was playing Diddy Kong Racing, which is a significantly better game than Mario Kart, because you had like hovercraft and planes and carts. It was way better.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay.
But now every time I hear something that remotely sounds like Enya, like just that crappy, overly produced, like this is safe music, everyone will not be offended by it, but nobody really likes it. I actually get flashes of Diddy Kong Racing. Like I can
Right.
see myself like trying to decide whether I'm going to fly under the little cliff side or over the cliff side, every time. I don't know why you'd choose anything but a plane in that game, but yeah.
So what you're saying is Enya transports you.
Yes, what I'm saying is that in my brain, those two experiences have been hardwired together. It's kind of like if you dated a girl that used a specific type of shampoo, and then you break up, and 10 years later you've dated three or four other people by then. You're married and you have a kid, and somebody walks by with that scent of shampoo, and you're like, Vicky, is that Vicky? And you're like, no,
Dude,
that's just some guy.
perfect description. So let's see. Victor is just listing some pretty good classics like Super Mario Brothers, Legends of Zelda, Skate or Die, which
Oh,
the
Skate or
thing about the
Die.
NES emulator that kind of pissed me off is it doesn't have Skate or Die
How could you
and
not have
or
Skate or Die?
Paperboy. And I was like, if you don't have Skate or Die or Paperboy, you're missing some pretty essential.
What about TNC Surf?
Nope,
Oh,
no,
dang.
not there. But Master Blaster, Metroid, Blades of Steel, Mike Tyson's Punch Out still have yet to this day to beat Mike Tyson. Maybe I was just a weak player. Super
Scott
Mario.
Scott and I played Mike Tyson's Punch Out at Creative South.
Oh, nice,
Yeah,
nice. How'd you guys do?
terrible.
Yeah, he's a beast, man. He's a beast in the ring. And that's like prime era of Tyson when he was 8-bit. Um, so the Super Mario Brothers 2 and Super Mario Brothers 3, I will agree with 3. I am still on the fence about 2, even though I think it's cool the princess can kind of float. But I feel like that game, at least at the time, I remember as a kid being super disappointed with that game.
Really?
There are some cool things, like Toad is a great character
Yep.
and addition. Um, but like the playability of it, like it is fun at first. I remember it being really fun at first to like pick up, because most of Mario Brothers you're trying to avoid characters, and if you jump on them, you kind of squash them.
Yeah.
In that game, you could like jump on a character and you're just kind of hanging out on their head, and then you can pick them up and like chuck them, which is pretty
At
cool.
other people. Yeah, at other
Yeah,
characters.
so you can use characters as weapons against each other, which was pretty innovative at the time. But yeah, I'm still not feeling Mario 2 as much as Mario 1 and Mario 3.
That game was not originally a Mario game.
Yeah,
It was something else, and I can't remember what it was. And
didn't they
then
just put skins over it?
what's that?
Didn't they just kind of put the skins of the
Yeah,
characters
yeah.
over the?
Nothing about that game has anything to do with Mario. There were four completely different players, and then something at the last minute happened, and they're like, just make that one Peach and Toad and Mario and Luigi, and that was it. That was the only change they made, which is why there's like this weird cutscene at the end of like Mario waking up, because there's Koopa Troopa isn't in that. You're not even in the Mushroom Kingdom. There's nothing to do with anything. And at the end of this, you fight a giant dream frog who blows bubbles at you. Like, and then and then Mario wakes up in this horribly drawn, hugely pixelated, like weird close up with a weird like nightcap on. And it was like, oh, it's all a dream. But I like that game. There's a creature, like, just from the character design. There's a creature in that game whose entire anatomy is based on firing its eggs out of its mouth.
Oh, that's right. And you have to kind of chuck that. Okay. I have that on the emulator, and I'm remembering the first time, because I remember playing that for a week, and then finally figuring out you have to jump on the egg as it's in the air,
Yep.
pick it up over your head, and chuck it right back at the guy.
And
And
I now want that sound. That sound is coming back to me. I want that sound as like my text message sound or something.
for sure,
Every time you picked up the egg in the air.
it's not bad. It's not a bad one. Speaking of, I just feel like bashing things after Anya bash. But so like I wonder if like most of the writers for Marvel Comics at the time were like playing Mario 2, and they're like, that's a great ending. Let's do that. Maybe it's all.
Okay, a bit of history. I think this is where this came from. Maybe. What is that show? It's the guy. It's an old show, and it's the guy that runs a hotel, and it's like there's always a guy who came in. He's a comedian. There's always like a neighbor that came in with two brothers that never talked, and he said, "Hey, this is my brother Daryl and my other brother Daryl."
Oh crap! What was that?
That was the first time, I think, the first time that somebody did that. It was all a dream. He had two different shows. There was one show, and then it ran its course, and then ended, and then they gave him another show years later, and it ran its course, and it ended with him waking up to his with his wife of the first show and saying, "Man, I had the weirdest dream," and it was like
Newhart.
Newhart, Bob Newhart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he was just on Conan O'Brien's podcast, and I was
Oh,
like
really?
trying. Yeah, which is really good, by the way. If anybody's out there kind of wanting to check out something, fan of comedy.
If anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's Buddy the Elf's dad. That's Bob Newhart.
Yes,
And
yes,
he had two sitcoms, and I think that was the first time that that happened. And then since then, it has happened a bazillion times, where it's like the writers just get themselves into a spot where they're like, "Well, crap, I didn't think we'd make it this far. I don't know what to do." Yeah, I feel like Lost almost did that. Like if Lost
yeah,
did that, I would not have been surprised. Or
yeah.
Battlestar Galactica is another one where, Starbuck could have just woken up and said, "Well, yeah, that was a weird dream. I'm gonna go color
Yeah,
this weird sphincter again."
yeah. Well, back to the old the battleship. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's a new season of Game of Thrones that they haven't talked about where they just wake up and they're like, oh, Stark's still alive. Like the whole thing is like it's just a dream. Um, yeah, it's that is fascinating, man. Newhart's really interesting though.
Dude, what
All
is this episode that we're doing right now?
80 episodes of the Tonight Show, we're totally just doing random stuff. Um, but yeah, I think probably not much to do with art today,
No.
but I think it was well worth it.
I think both of us
So this is
played way
what
too many video
happened.
games to talk about anything productive.
Yeah, the main thing that I would say is a takeaway from this is there's a reason I don't own gaming systems, and now that I own one, I have a permanent temptation. So that's going to be a challenge. By the next art check, like after we're done with this, I need to letter my page before I go and spend more time.
Leveling up your black mage.
Yeah, because it's so fun when you get to that level 4 fire and you get to just see all those pixels burn. You're like, he was weak once. Now my black mage is the secret power. But anyhow, yeah. So, other than that, like I just I'm glad to be back at the art check. I think one thing that might be a good takeaway from this too is just like we both seem a little more rejuvenated, I'd say, from the break. So yeah, more power to like actually having a little bit of time off.
Yeah,
It's not a bad route.
it's good to do sometimes. I also, if we're talking about what we did over vacation, I went car shopping. That
Ooh.
is the worst experience. And I'll tell you, I am used to buying what I call disposable cars. And I was informed by my wife that she's done owning disposable cars, that she's an adult, and so am I, and we should act like it. And so we're getting a tax return at some point in time, in theory, if the government ever gives me my money back. And we're going to buy a car with that. So we're like looking at cars. And I will tell you, I still buy cars and eat as if I was in college
Yes.
because when there's like free food available, it doesn't matter whether I'm hungry or not. Like I have this deep seated like survival instinct to be like I need to eat until I can't because I
Yeah.
don't know where my next meal is coming from because I was freaking hungry in college.
Yeah.
And the same thing like with my cars. I drove a $50 '84 Cadillac that I bought from a farmer,
Yeah.
and it like I would drive it 1,200 miles before cell phones existed, like through Nevada and
Yeah.
Death Valley, and survived. And so like when I see I keep pulling up these cars and I'm like, babe, this one's only $1,700, and she's like, okay, what is it? And I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's $1,700. She's like, no, that's not what we're doing right now. I was like, okay. So I'm like, I've gotten out of that mindset.
Yeah.
We might have a car payment for the first time in 12 years. I don't like that idea, but anyway, we're gonna buy a
It's not
car.
bad. I would say I have bought new cars. Um, and there's a couple things like one is definitely well, you probably already know, but it's like just be ready to walk. like
Yeah.
negotiating, because they're hard sales. And so it's like get competing quotes, preferably from the place right next door. So you can be like, oh, I'll just walk over there. Go to those car malls. Um, research like the 4 panel grid thing, because that's like, well, they have this like sales tactic where they'll do like a diagram with like four, and it's just nonsense. They'll go talk to their manager. They're not talking to their manager.
Right.
There's a bunch of stuff online about it, which is great. And then definitely don't just look at Blue Book, because you can, if you find out the actual wholesale that they paid, and then you find out the commission they're making on top, then you literally have all the keys when you walk in, because they'll be like, "Oh, we're losing money," and you're like, "Look, you sign off to this, you're walking away with $1,000. That's fair. If I agree to what you're talking about, you're gonna get like $5,000. So why would I agree to that? Like you're gonna
Yeah.
get a grand. Shut up and take my money." you know, and usually that works. But the one thing I'd say about the car payment, just pay extra, like just like any other payment. If you pay a
Oh
little
yeah.
bit extra and you say pay it towards the principal, it goes down super fast. Um,
Victor's asking if I listened to Enya while I drove through Death Valley. No.
yeah, that's I don't know, man. $50 car, probably not much of an Enya sound system on that thing.
I paid $1,000 for a 90, no, what was it? Early 2000 Kia Rio, which is like barely a vehicle. It's
Yeah, Kias are barely alive to begin with.
yeah, and the Rio's like they're like you can call this a car. It's
Mhm.
slightly faster than a golf cart. But
Yeah,
like
focus.
as I was entering Death Valley, it was there are all these signs like if you don't have 110% trust in your vehicle, turn back now. If you don't have 3 days of water in your car, you may not see another person forever. And I'm like, okay, this is slightly terrifying, but I made it through and ran out of gas and rolled into Pahrump, Nevada on fumes by throwing it into neutral every time there was any slight decline and just just coasting as much as I possibly could.
I do relate to the instinct you're talking about, though, because I felt this tinge of guilt. Even though this was money that I had gotten from, like, it's the collection of some money I got as gifts from family members for my birthday.
Yeah.
And it's my birthday. And I spent $70 on, an emulator and an extra controller. And as far as video game systems go, that's like the cheapest thing.
Yeah.
Um, and yet I just felt this guilt, and I was rationalizing it. I'm even rationalizing it now, where I'm like, well, look, like if you look at other video game systems, like I I think there's something that happens when you kind of grow up with like out means, where you feel guilty spending any amount of money. Like my friend who I'm in a band with, he makes a pretty good living as like a teacher, and he does a ton of overtime. He did tons of overtime. He made thousands of dollars for his family. And he was like, I kind of want to buy this guitar that I've dreamed about my whole life. And the splurge was pretty substantial for a guitar,
Yeah.
but for someone our age on a guitar, it's pretty slight. And yet, he was having the same kind of thing because he grew up similar to me. So he's like, oh, well, like having to explain all the reasons. And it's like, dude, you just bought a guitar. It's okay. It's okay to do that.
Let me ask you this: does your wife have to talk you into things sometimes?
Oh, 100%. Even the game, because I like, even while we were driving to the GameStop, I was like, well, I don't really game, and I don't know if this is like, should I really? Because, and she's like, look, you'll have fun with it. Just go for it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, but I like, and I'm trying to talk myself out of it. Um, and then like, 2.5 hours later playing Mario 3, I was like, I am glad my wife said okay
Yep.
and convinced me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much that kind of scenario. And because I think you do, you're right. Like you have those like weeks where you're just like living on ramen and stuff, and you're like, I never want to be there. So it's like you constantly are like, oh, that's like even when I go out to eat, same thing. Like where I'm like, hmm, that value meal isn't really a value.
Nope.
were to order each one of those separately, it would, and I go into this whole thing and it's like, just order a number 4. Like,
I
you know,
I went to college during the time that McDonald's had the throwback prices on their hamburgers. I hate McDonald's, by the way, but
yeah,
they had 29-cent hamburgers and 39-cent cheeseburgers, and they had a limit of 10. You could only buy 10 at a time. And this is one of the grossest stories I think I'll tell. I would save up $3.17, I think is what it
right.
was. I can't remember exactly. And when I got $3.17, I would go buy 10, and then I would eat two or three, and then I would like save the rest for the next couple days, and I could stretch that into like 3 meals a day for like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, they were only. I actually know this because I think I was doing the same thing around the same time.
Right.
Because I remember keeping them in the fridge, and then like about the third day, you'd have like you'd microwave it. It wouldn't taste quite great, but it had this kind of stale tinge to it. But it
Yeah.
was survivable. Yeah, it was like two for $1 tacos at Jack in the
Uh
Box
huh.
were also a nice little trick where you'd get like, $3 and
I'll tell you this: in 2002, uh, no, in 1998, this is when I did this. In 1998, you could live off of $1.11 a day if you had 4 pancakes with peanut butter and syrup and a glass of milk for 3 meals a day, which I
yeah.
did for 3 weeks straight.
I love it. Oh man.
I lived for 6 weeks one time when I was in between jobs off cans of tuna.
Yeah.
I had half a case of tuna, and I had $6.50 left in my bank account, and this is before I knew that credit existed. And
Yeah.
I spent six of my $6.50, so I had 50 cents in my bank account on 3 different types of mustard, and that was how I got variety and didn't like gag every time I ate a can of tuna. Is I would mix in my spicy brown mustard, I'd mix in my normal mustard, or I'd mix in my honey mustard, and that just was enough variety for me to make it a month and a
Dude,
half.
and that mustard thing is not a bad tip if you're on like the on the lamb and you're having to eat tuna a lot. What you can do is get like a cheap bag at the 99-cent store of like not like nacho chips, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you mix like just regular mustard with tuna and dip it.
Yep.
It's actually a pretty good little hack. But dude, I think uh, just considering that, I think that's where like I'll feel intense guilt, but at the same time, it also causes like a really intense work ethic. I think because like
Yeah.
once again, but I am annoying to like go places with sometimes because I am looking at the cost of everything. I'm like, ooh, that's not. I'm always looking for like, where's the catch here? Like, what's the thing? They're shaking me down, kind of thing.
So Holly says, "LOL, I eat 2 Snickers a day for substance, so very relatable." Um, which reminds me of I thought my dad was the cheapest guy I knew because he knows how much each M&M costs. Like he would he would get a bag of M&Ms or whatever, and then he would tell you how much each M&M cost after he ate it. He's like, "Did you know that these are 5.5 cents?" Also, we went to this water park one time, and because we're so cheap, there was a lightning storm. So think about like lightning, right? At a water park, all the normal people who are like, well, I don't need to die today, they left. And so then we had the water park to ourselves. Like there was like us and like 2 other crazy families that are like, we paid money, we're gonna get our money's worth. And so we ran up this stupid tower so many times, and as we're running up each time, my dad's like, now this ride is only going to cost us $6.50. And then he comes up again the next one. This ride's only going to cost us $4.25. Like every time we went down, it would like, increase the number of rides that we got for the one ticket that we paid for. Anyway, it was, and then eventually we were like, we're teenagers, but I was like, Dad, I'm tired of running up the stupid thing. I'm going to go hang out in the wave pool for a little bit. I thought my dad was the cheapest guy I knew until I worked for this guy whose dad was a horse trader.
Oh,
That guy had stories that I couldn't believe. He never paid for gasoline for his car. he would go to 3 different gas stations every morning and pick up the hose. You know how it like dips down, and just
Uh,
empty the gas in the hose and then drive forward. He'd go to 6 pumps in 3 different gas stations, and he would get enough to drive his truck for like another 2 days. He did that every other day his entire
man,
life. Never paid for gasoline.
unbelievable. But still, kind of like the weird thing is with my wiring, I'm like, I kind of respect that a little bit.
Ever since I've heard that story, I always lift the hose up after I'm done pumping gas. I don't
You're
want
like,
to. I don't want to give it to some horse trader. This is mine. I paid for it.
all right. Well, man, this has been fun, and I think we've gone a while, and I think it's been fun. So I hope you guys in the chat don't mind us having a little bit of a catch up and stuff like that. And I'm glad to hear all your guys' favorite games and wonderful stories. Check out our podcast, which this may not make it to, at corykerr.com/48hr. Although it might be a fun podcast, just change it up a bit.
Yeah.
RoshforKemble.com is where you can find my artwork, which has little to do with what we discussed today. And Cory Kerr, you can check out his stuff at corykerr.com. And I am really looking forward to checking out his last Illo talk. So I really recommend go there and check that out. All right, we will see you guys next Monday. And
Yes.
by then, we will be talking art check and art again. So we will see you guys then.
Asta.